All good.
Very good. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the monthly meeting of the Home and Community Care Block Grant Advisory Committee. We do have some folks missing. Dan's on vacation, Zach's at a conference, and Suzanne is under the weather. So I believe everybody else is here and we can get started before our speaker arrives. Housekeeping wise, is there any revisions or changes to the agenda? Nope. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Excellent. Next housekeeping item is approval of the minutes. Any?
Motion to approve.
Do I
Second.
hear it? Excellent. Excellent. So we do have a speaker today. Kathy Long is the director of Day Stay. Billy, can you perhaps try to contact her and see if she's able to connect with us?
Susan, while she's doing that, would you like me to give some updates about things that have been happening, like around age friendly, or anything else that you'd like us to touch on in the meantime? Because it may take a couple minutes.
Why don't you speak to that community, the needs assessment?
Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. I think we've mentioned this before with the committee, but just as a quick overview, Deerfield has reached out that they are looking at doing an assessment around the needs of older adults throughout Buncombe County. They are working with a consultant, and I've been really excited because Michelle Woolley who works at Deerfield, she's actually been reaching out to aging services partners. So those of us that do this work day in and day out, myself, Billy, the directors of many of the nonprofits, she's been meeting one-on-one with individuals to hear kind of what we think the needs are, and also to talk with community members that are part of our Buncombe Aging Services Alliance, part of the Age Friendly Work, and others. And Deerfield had been talking about doing a larger survey, is my understanding, to kind of the community at large. But after lots of feedback and some conversations with their consultant and some internal conversations, Michelle did share at our provider meeting earlier today that they're looking at doing their community needs assessment specifically to the aging services partners, so the providers that do the work. They're going to be sending out a survey instead of necessarily sending it out to community members. They're looking at doing it really more those that are in the weeds doing the work day in and day out. And so I believe she said that they hope to launch that in January. Is that correct, Susan? That's what I think she said.
That's what I remember, that that was going to be launched in January, and it's the Deerfield Foundation, if I want to be specific. Yes. It's not the community, it is the foundation.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, they're a philanthropy arm of the foundation. And so as we know more, look forward to sharing that with you all. I do have a meeting with Michelle to learn a little bit more about the details tomorrow, so we can always share any questions that may come up for you in the future. We can help to try to answer those, but really excited about that partnership and seeing where things can go from there.
Excellent. I think we have Kathy. Good afternoon, Kathy. This is Susan. I'm wondering if you can talk to us about Day Stay.
I'm not seeing Kathy. I'm sorry, Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confusing Taylor with her. Well,
I emailed her again, and I emailed at 3:11, and I just emailed her and I haven't gotten a response. So
Okay.
there must be some confusion.
Okay, well, shall we go on then to the bylaws? And then at the end, Jen, if we have any more time, we can go over some more announcements. So switching gears, if you recall, at last meeting, we had all but one sentence approved of the bylaws. Right, Cindy? So to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the conflict of interest, please let me know if anybody has any objections. The new part of the conflict of interest paragraph reads, if any member has a relationship of any kind with a grantee, excuse me, they must disclose this to the committee.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Eileen. I appreciate that. So, does anybody have any comments, questions regarding this? And you'll see at the bottom of the page in the right-hand corner, it says version 11/15/2023. So are we ready to approve the bylaws, this version?
I make a motion that we approve this version of the bylaws.
Excellent.
Second.
Eileen's got second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Congratulations, we now have a new updated bylaws. Excellent.
Susan, can I also just share, and I apologize because I just found this out right before or earlier today, before the committee, or I would have told you. I do want to say that Melissa did get appointed by the commissioners, so she is officially a member and eligible for voting. So,
And she
welcome,
did.
Melissa.
Yay.
Thank you for, I thought about that earlier, Jen, and I totally forgot it. So thank you for officially recognizing her appointment.
Thank you, guys. Excited to be part of the group.
We're glad to have you, very much so. So the grant application. It's quite daunting to go through it. And Jen, help me. We will have to have this finalized our next meeting. Is that correct? Yeah. And I don't know if I'm sorry, I'll bring it up on my screen here. Today, Jen, you made some comments at the provider meeting on when it would be released. And I think I had that incorrectly. So on page 2, it's going to be Friday, February 23rd. It'll be released. I mean, no, but submission date. I'm sorry, Jen.
Yes, and if you'd like, I can. Maybe we could just, Susan, share. So earlier today, there was a provider meeting. I believe you all got an email. Billy had sent out that there were 2 meetings today. And so we did share the timeline and the process for the application. And then also, so I can put the timeline in the chat, or we'll also make sure to send you all the PowerPoint that was discussed today. It was also recorded. If you want to watch it, you're welcome to watch it. But it has all of the dates and the timeframes on there. With an opening of January 16th, as long as this committee is okay with that, and a closing of February 23rd, which will give you all the month of whatever days are left in February, and then the month of March until April 24th to review the application and make recommendations.
Now, either Jen or Billy have the draft that I sent out that they could put on the screen?
I have it. I'm happy to share it.
Okay, thank you.
Just a second.
Yeah, there's the 24th.
Okay, I can update that.
Yes.
I appreciate you doing this, Susan. I was gonna go through and do this, but it's so nice that you've already done it.
Well, I kind of felt like we were under a little bit of a deadline because really only have this coming month to kind of look over it and make changes. Scrolling through it, some of the changes were pretty simple. Just, the dates. And I updated the links, but I couldn't remember, Jen, if the links are active on the application.
They are, and we'll make sure that they're all live whenever it goes out to the community.
Okay, so can you scroll back to, I want to say units of service. I think I just,
Is it this one?
number 4, yeah, with the aqua color. So Jen, you were describing today in the provider meeting what it meant for a unit of service. So I am really struggling here when I looked at this section on how to clearly and concisely relate what you described, that the unit of service should include everything.
Okay, I was gonna just scroll and see if that had been added to another section, but it may not have been. I may even have it on another document that I was working on, but we can definitely continue to work on this language. The goal here, and again, we talked about it at the provider meeting today, which is only our current funded providers. Of course, this application and opportunity is available to anyone in the community to apply for. What we shared with the providers this earlier was that it needs to be all of the cost to do the service, and then they divide that out by the number of units that they plan to be able to offer to help them come up with their unit of service. And we also offered to meet one-on-one with potential applicants if they wanted to talk through what that might look like for them. One really good example, though, is Council on Aging and the way they do their congregate meals. It's the example I gave earlier. They factor in the cost of the staff to run the program, the cost of the meal itself, the cost to put the food in the boxes and the transportation, et cetera. And all of that is wrapped into their unit cost. And then they divide out what their request will be. So I'm just going to use whole numbers here. But let's say that they were requesting $200,000 and their unit cost is $10. Because it's $10 by the time they add in the food. Let's say the food costs $7 and their staff time is $2 per meal that they serve. And then the transportation cost, let's say, is $1. These are all just examples. This is not the actual numbers, so I don't want anybody to think that that is. Then they would just take the $200,000 that they get, divide that out by $10 to come up with their total cost. So we would not get a bill that is $9 for meals and then $1 for staff time. It would all be wrapped into their unit of service. That's a lot easier. And as I said earlier, it's a lot easier for providers that do a unit, like to do a service, like a meal or an adult daycare day or a transportation route. It is harder for some of our providers that don't have a unit-based service. So maybe they do, I'm just going to use examples, Working Wills or Blue Ridge Pride. They may not, Generations Plus, they may not have the same type of service cost. And so we just need to work with them to identify how then do they bill out a unit. Because each time that they do a presentation in their community, for example, then that's equal to a rate. It's the staff time, it's the, et cetera, the administrative overhead.
So you bring up a good point, and that's kind of where I I got stuck because it says, the red highlight is what I put in. When determining the unit of service cost, remember to include administrative overhead. Now, as an accountant, I know what that means, but I think if you could put your example there of the food service, that would be great. But I'm struggling then with the next part that I did not touch, which is if the service is something other than unit-based. Please describe the service and if funded, how the service will be billed. So you have concrete examples like Blue Ridge Pride. How could you put that into, like, for example, into an example? And could you,
So I did add on a different form that I had already worked on. Apparently, I did add a little bit more, and I'll add it here, and you can see what you think. There's not a for example for the non-unit based, so we can definitely do that. This is what I had written for the unit-based cost. So unit of service should include all of the cost to run the program. The unit rate should include staff time, any administrative cost, et cetera, and all expenses should roll into the overall unit rate.
now, does the committee think that a written example, like what you were saying, like the equation, add that in there too? So, for example, you could say, for example, like, I don't know, for example, the meals, whatever you said, that we said the meal, if the food cost is X, the transportation is another cost, the staffing is another cost.
Yeah, I think we can definitely look at that. I would be open to any ideas that the committee has. I wouldn't want to skew it. I wouldn't want people to think that is the number. We could put a number, or we could do X, and then we could just add all of that together.
Well, staffing would be Y, and then transportation would be Z. So the total cost would be X plus Y plus Z. And then, so that is total cost. And then, what did you say? Total cost is divided by units you anticipate?
Or is it the opposite?
It's units expected to serve.
Divided by the total cost.
Well, that's a really good point. It's whoever just said that. Thank you. So sorry, hold on. Because this is where we ask them to put their match, their units that they plan to serve.
So if they had, like, if they're asking for $100,000 and each unit is 10, each cost is 10, and they can divide it out and say that's how many people or how many services they plan to provide. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, it's the total cost per unit. So yes, and so we kind of have to do it backwards. The other thing, and I really don't want to get like super confusing here, is that it's also a match. So it's a 10% required match. So it's not as easy. I mean, I say you take $100,000, you divide it by 10. It doesn't really work like that, because this is how we've explained how you do the match. I don't know how to say it. This is hard. This is a hard program to manage if you're not an organization that can manage at like this level with the block grant requirements. And so the match becomes a challenge. So I can't just write above, like take your amount and then divide it out, because you actually have to figure out 10% of your net service cost and then do your math.
So Jen, does that mean we need to think about an example for block grant and an example for the county funds?
I would say I wouldn't want to put any additional, me personally, I would not want to put any additional examples other than the one that's here. This one actually comes directly from policy. This is in the manual for block
Okay.
grant funding. So I wonder about, and maybe it's the way in which it's listed. Like maybe this comes after this. Maybe that's what's part of the confusion. We've asked about units of service before we've ever got to the total cost amount of money that they're asking for. And they have to figure out how much money they're getting.
I think that's part of it. That's part of my confusion.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe it's the way in which it's like listed. Okay, let me see. So they've requested, okay, so we go up here to the top, program proposal, program name, funding amount requested. There they put in whatever they've requested. And then we get down here and they're kind of explaining how they got to that amount above. But maybe it really is that if this is funded, we start here with their net service cost and then they build down from there versus that up there. Because this is a perfect example. This is the example about how you get there.
I think you're exactly right, Jen. I think it makes a lot more sense to put it down here after they've come up with their total cost and their match. Then it makes more sense to go further into the weeds and figure out the unit cost. It's more logical.
Yeah, I think that's, and this goes back to a little bit of our results-based accountability work that we were trying to add into our application years ago, which is why it says performance measures and it's got quantity listed there. So we may want to consider like just kind of removing that for the sake of today. And then moving these questions to below that this is how you get to your total. And then they do the math for their units of service.
Well, Jen, I don't want to lose the results-based accountability comment.
Oh, I didn't take that out. I only took out the quantity. I just took out the word quantity because we can add the word quantity back in just above where this was if you want. So like we can move it to exactly where it was. So let's say quantity, because it was right here. But it's just below. So their performance measures, this is how their net service cost would be X. They figure that out. And they tell us what it is. Then they define the unit of service. So is it an hour, day? Is it an hour? Is it a day? Is it a trip? And then we can give an example of what that might be. And then if it's something other than unit based, they describe what it is. And the actual cost of one unit. Because some of our providers don't charge the full cost of the unit.
Correct. Which is always confusing to them because it says, what's the actual cost of the service after you ask them the cost of the service?
We can move that. We can take it out if you all want.
I don't know if it added much.
I feel like they're going to put the same thing that they put up top.
And a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
What I will tell you, I think I'm going to use memory care, for example. The actual unit cost of a service, I believe, is like, I apologize, Elizabeth, if you're listening, because I may get this wrong, but let's say it's like $1,200. They use half funding for these half of it comes from our funding and half of it comes from something else. So the actual cost is $1,200, but their proposed unit rate is $600. That's just an example. That's not, again, not the exact numbers. But that's like what, in theory, a provider would write. What is the actual unit cost and they
This
would
is-
say 1,200, but what is the proposed unit rate would be 600 because we're only paying for a portion.
So does this come up bigger?
Oh, sounds like we may have somebody who has joined us.
Hi,
Hey,
This-
we'll
this is Kathy Long. It says Paul Raven, but it's Kathy Long.
Okay.
Oh. Okay.
excellent. Well, Kathy, if you want, we'll let Susan. I think we'll move to you after we finish the application. Is that what you want to do, Susan, or do you want to go ahead and go to Kathy?
Let's see. Actually, let's go to Kathy since she's here,
Okay.
so she doesn't have to go through the minutia of the application. So Kathy, do you really have a beard and glasses?
I do not. So we're not sure why that's. Hang on, we'll figure it out. We're not really sure.
We're having difficulties.
Kathy, if you wanted to at least change the name, you can do the 3 dots. Oh, well.
Oh, there we go.
All
Okay.
right. Sorry about that. We were having a lot of trouble, but okay.
All right. I'm Kathy Long. I'm the director of the Day Stay Social Club, and we're located on the campus of Hominy Baptist Church in Candler. We are open on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 9:30 to 3:30. Our main purpose is to help senior adults who can no longer stay home by themselves, and the caregiver needs a break. They need to go to work. They need to go to appointments or run errands. So we give the participant a safe place that they can come and stay during the day with us. They come in first thing of the morning, and we serve coffee or tea or hot chocolate and some type of pastry. We have socialization. They can watch I Love Lucy or Andy Griffith or Beverly Hillbillies. We have puzzles that are going on, so they can do that in the morning. We also have a therapy dog, and his name is Fred. I can't get Fred in here. Everybody loves Fred. And Fred gets lots of love and he gets lots of care. But Fred is very good because we don't have to feed Fred and we don't have to take Fred for a walk. But everybody likes to sit with Fred, so he comes in handy. So he's Day-to-Day's mascot. After about 45 minutes, we go into some type of mental stimulation. We do brain games, we do word finds, we do lots of trivia, because it's very important to keep our minds active, of course. And we do that till lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, we come over into the lunchroom, and we're always served a full lunch. We have meat, vegetables, fruit every day. And after lunch, we do a little cleanup. And I have participants who think they are working at Day Stay or volunteering at Day Stay. So they help clean the tables, wipe the chairs, put up dishes. And it gives them a chance to feel useful and to feel needed. I have one gentleman whose wife brings me $25 on Friday, and I give it to him at the end of the day. So he gets paid for all his work he does for us. And it makes him very happy that he has a job and that he gets a paycheck. So that's one of the things we do to help them feel important also. After lunch, we always have evening activities, and that's different things on different days. On Tuesdays, the second and fourth Tuesday of each month, we have a lady who plays piano and comes and sings for us. We do crafts. This is a couple of crafts we've done this year for the month of November. Oh, I can't get my
They're
crafts
cute.
going the right way. And then on Thursday mornings, we do a worship service. We have pastors from different churches who volunteer and come and do a little devotion. We have a lady who plays hymns and sings for us. And that helps a lot of our participants who can't go to church anymore. They enjoy that. We also do all kinds of games. We do bingo on Fridays. We play noodle ball, which is a very popular game. We take a big, huge balloon and we have pool noodles that are cut in half, and we bat those back and forth to each other, and they really enjoy that. We do chair exercises, which we exercise for 30 minutes from the chair. We exercise our head, our neck, our shoulders, arms, legs. And then we always do something that's physical after that for another 30 minutes. It might be basketball, a little beanbag toss, something like that they can do. So they enjoy that. Also on Fridays, we play bingo one Friday and we play cards the next. And we play a game that's called Knuckles Down. And Knuckles Down is used with 2 decks of cards. I deal one out to all the players and I call from the other one. If you have the card, you throw it in the middle, and the first person to win wins Knuckles Down, and everybody taps their knuckles on the table. But we also keep playing until the last card's played, and that person is the cow's tail, and they actually get a cow's tail, which is a little candy that we give them. So this is the only game you can play, and you get a prize for losing. So they enjoy that also. We just like to keep our participants busy, and we like to keep them happy, and we like to keep them engaged. We feel that your grant that you have given us has helped us to be able to do this, in the fact that we've been able to hire some new people. We've been able to enroll new participants, so our numbers are up. We have 18 on the roll. We have at least 10 to 12 that come that are usually here every day. Some people only come once a week, some twice a week, and some every day. But we're hoping that with the grant and with the fact that we were able to hire new employees and we were able to get more participants, that we can go ahead very soon and open on Mondays and Wednesdays also, which would help us to be open 5 days a week, which would be great. And then at that point, the board would look at whether or not they wanted to reapply to be an adult day. So this is a little bit about who Day Stay is and what we do. Do you have any questions for me?
I do have one question. Oh,
Okay.
Cindy, after you.
Okay, I was just going to say, what's the level of physical disability or mental disability? Do you have to do assistance to the bathroom or any challenges with incontinence? Or I'm just wondering what level of care.
Right now with us, as we are classed as a Day Stay social club, so we don't have anybody that has to have one-on-one care. They have to be able to feed themselves and toilet themselves. So all my participants are able to do that at this point, but all of them also do have some degree of dementia or Alzheimer's.
What days did you say you're doing it now?
Pardon?
What days are you doing it now? You said
Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from 9:30 to 3:30.
and you're thinking about trying to go to 5?
We're hoping we can go to 5 days a week. Right now, I only have 3 people interested on Monday and Wednesday, and that's not quite profitable to hire someone to come in for only 3 people. So we're hoping those numbers are going to up for Mondays and Wednesdays, and then we could open for a full week.
And you said you had 18 people now?
Yes.
How many are you capable of having?
We can have up to 26.
Per day?
No,
Okay.
just total enrolled. Yes.
Oh.
18 is about the capacity for a day. It's what we have space for.
Okay.
Yes. But I do need, I would need at least 10 to 12 people each day for it to be profitable to open.
I see. Thank you.
Mhm.
But on the average, what do you have? Your average 18? Most days you have 18, or most?
No, 10. I usually have 10 to 12 each day. I have 18 enrolled, but like I said, they don't all come at the same time. Some come only 1 day a week, some come 2 days a week, some come all 3.
So do I understand correctly that if you're able to be open 5 days a week, then you can take a higher level of care, basically like maybe participants who would require more assistance to be a adult daycare, is that right?
Yes, if we do that, we would have to reapply for licensure.
Okay.
So how do the participants get to your location?
The families all drop them off and pick them up. We do not provide transportation.
And do some of the families contribute to the service financially?
Yes. Yes, they do. And I have a lot who come and help volunteer and do things with us. They also help with, if we need items, say coffee, tea, things like that to help out, they help volunteer and bring those in also.
And can you help us understand what you need to do in order to regain your license?
To regain the license, I would have to, as I said, I would have to have at least 10 to 12 people that attend every day. And we would have to actually hire more employees than we have right now. I have 2 that are working all the time and 1 that's a fill-in. And then we would have to reapply, of course, through Raleigh to get the license.
Now, does it require a level of how do I say this, level of care to the residents? So if you get your license, can you just still maintain the current population of folks with their ability to feed themselves and ability to toilet themselves? Or would you need to go and get more, or would you need to not get more, but would you need to reach out to other folks who had higher needs?
I could do both, actually. We could continue with the participants that we have and people that are on that level, or you could go to where you actually had people who needed help toileting or help being fed. But we still, when we were a day stay, an adult day before, we couldn't take anybody that required constant one-on-one care.
Would it also require you to have a different licensed staff on board for you to be adult daycare?
The only thing, you have to have a full-time director, And then the employees do not have to be CNAs, but they do have to be certified in CPR and first aid, and they do have to be at least 18 years of age, and they have to have had at least 1 year of working with senior adults.
Hi, this is Eileen. I'm wondering what kind of outreach you have for your population. Is it just people in the local neighborhood? Do you get people from other areas? Or, I mean, if you did get more money, would you try to do more outreach to different areas, or where do they come from? Is it just word of mouth, or how do you find your folks?
It is word of mouth. We also we go to different places just at various times and hand out flyers about Day Stay to health fairs, craft fairs, whatever. We have a website that we advertise on, and I do have people currently who are coming from Haywood County. I have a lady who's coming from Henderson County, and I have another lady who's coming from Weaverville. So I do have people that are coming from different areas. And we do a lot of churches. We go to a lot of churches and just present who we are and what we do, and hand out flyers, and doctor's offices. I go to different doctor's offices and talk with them and hand out flyers, discharge planners at the hospital, just to make them aware of who we are and what we do.
Okay, that sounds good.
Jen, any questions from you guys? Jen, Billy?
I don't have any questions. I would just add a little bit of additional comments. Thank you so much, Kathy, for being with us today.
Yes.
As a reminder, Day State, just so everybody knows, Day State did used to be a licensed facility. They did stop their licensure like during time of COVID. They were open for some during COVID, and then decided to forfeit their licensure. But prior to that, Day Stay really did serve a significant section of our community. You all know about Mountain Care, and Mountain Care is a wonderful organization in our community that has adult day care and adult day health. However, we really used to have 3 really strong functioning adult day cares. Day Stay was one, Mountain Care was one, and then also Irene Wortham. And right now we really have mostly just Mountain Care. So it's really exciting when we saw that Day Stay was going to reopen. Even right now, if it's just kind of as the respite program or social program, I think it is serving a need in our community.
I think so too, and I just feel it's a need that is out there. There's so many senior adults who need the care, who cannot stay home by themselves, and I'm just very happy that we're able to do that. And I thank you for the grant for allowing us to do that.
I had a friend that I worked with, and her mother was going into dementia, and she had to go to work, and she would just lock her mom in the house while she went to work, because there was no other family. She had no choice what to do and stuff. So
right,
it meets a need. A lot of people that are stuck.
Absolutely. That's a touching story, Greg. It's really, we do need services.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need services. And out in Chandler, so it's not downtown.
No.
That's my neck of the woods too. That's on my side of town. So
Excellent. Excellent.
Where is it exactly?
We're on the campus of Hominy Baptist Church, which is right across from Kendler Elementary School.
Okay.
So, yeah, Hominy allows us to use their facility, which we're very grateful for.
Well, Kathy, we really appreciate your time. And we
Yes.
really appreciate what you do for our community.
Thank
and
you.
our-
Thank you.
So if there's no other questions or comments, we will let you go.
Okay. You have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You knew how to leave the meeting.
I would just say as they're exiting the call that the licensure process is actually also done in tandem with some staff at our office. So under the Adult and Aging Services Department, we have staff who go out and do the routine monitoring of the adult day cares and the adult day health in our community as well. So our staff's available to assist, and we've already reached out to Daystay. They're aware of that as well.
So a little bit of mental gymnastics as we flip back to looking at the application. Okay, we have a little less than 15 minutes left. A couple of items I want to let us not forget. One is, and Jen, you're going to have to help me with this. Mountain mobility, it was, I don't know, a few years back where we as a committee discussed and decided that since Mountain Mobility is a contractor with the county, that they already go through an RFP process. So we were not going to require them to go through our application process. Now in-home aid is provided by the county. Are you thinking that in-home aid would go back out to another provider, or?
So the first thing I would say is that I think this committee should talk about that transportation process. And if you all are still okay with that, I will say, I think what allows for that is that the county does a very thorough RFP process that Matt Cable does extensively to determine that Mountain Mobility is the provider. So I don't know that I think that would produce any other better outcome. Technically, the county doesn't have to RFP that again because they've already RFP'd it once. I think in-home aid is a little different for a couple of reasons. One, I've been telling providers all year long that if they think they want to take in-home aid, they are more than welcome to apply. And so we would encourage anybody who wants to do that to do that. The county we weren't necessarily trying to take it into the county. We will do it again next year if there's not anybody. If this committee does not select another provider, if nobody else applies. So I think leaving it open and then deciding whether or not you would like us to submit. I think we were actively more on the side of if no one else applies, then we will keep it process versus being an active applicant in it, but we can do whatever the committee decides you'd like us to do. I do not know of any other entity right now that has expressed interest in applying. That is not to say they're not out there. I just am not aware of any.
For folks who are new to the committee, what occurred last funding round was that that traditionally Council on Aging was the in-home provider, and they decided not to provide that service. And then nobody else came forward in the application process. So we ended the application process without anyone who was applying to provide services to the people who are already on service. So that's how the county kind of took it under their wing. So
I think what Jen said makes sense, to go ahead and put out the RFP to see if anybody's out there that we're not aware of that wants to come forward, and then have the county retain it if nobody steps forward.
And if the decision is made internally and at a higher level, we can always submit. Like if there's leadership that says no, we really would like to try to keep it in house, then I think we can definitely submit an application. I think that we have done a good job running the program. I think that there are still challenges, and I don't know that we're going to still be able to spend 100% of the in-home aid allocation. We're going to be closer than we have been in years past. But there may be an even better provider out there. So I would hate to limit that because I think in-home aid is very different than transportation.
I think what I'm hearing Cindy say is that we put out the application and encourage in-home aid providers to submit.
So I'm confused. Was there a particular company that was doing the in-home aid provision of the person that was paid through the Council on Aging? Is that what was happening?
Yeah. Susan, do you mind if I answer that?
Yeah.
So it's been a variety of things. So about 8 years ago, Council on Aging was the primary provider for 10 plus years, and they subcontracted out to about 10 different in-home aid agencies.
Okay.
8 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, the contract actually went to Premier, and they became Premier's for-profit home care agency. They became the grant provider. Like they was actually subcontracted from this committee directly to Premier. That lasted for, I think, like 3 or 4 years. And then Council on Aging got the grant back. And then they RFP'd out the actual provision, the hands-on care, the being in the home side of it, to I think 3 or 4 different agencies. And then, as Susan said, last year they decided they did not want to continue to keep it, so it came to the county. So there's 2 parts to the in-home aid program. There's the case management part, which is involving of the social worker to go out and do the admission paperwork, to do all of those pieces. And then there's the healthcare side of it. So it's the aid that goes in to help with cleaning or the hands-on care. At the county, what we did is we have a social worker who does that admission paperwork piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then we put out an RFP and we subcontracted with 3 entities: Cappies, Premier, and Always. And those are the 3 actual in-home aid providers that do the hands-on care in the house.
So if we don't have somebody who applies for the grant funds, then who will be subcontracted out?
The county would get the funds back again, and we would do another RFP, potentially the same 3 agencies that do the work and maybe others. I really want to put a plug in. I think actually all 3 of our providers have done an exceptional job of taking new clients on this year. We were concerned about the transition because, one, there was a home care agency that chose not to contract with the county. And we picked up a new provider. Cappies was a new provider, and they've done a great job, as have Always and Premier, in getting the needs met of the clients. So I feel good about the progress that's been made. I do know that there's a lot of internal support that would love to see it stay, but also that was not our intent, was not to take it. So we want people to have the opportunity, if they would like to take it back, to at least apply.
Well, I do know with my experience with in-home aid, so I do have some experience with my position with my employer. And so staffing has been horrible with these companies because some of the same companies like Premier and Interim and all of them we use. And it's just very unpredictable. Sometimes you might get somebody who's able to consistently come, and it feels like it's more related to post-pandemic, a problem with that than what it was prior to the pandemic. So I don't know how things will look for these. I mean, maybe the agencies are going to say, hey, we would like to have more business. We'll apply for this grant. I don't know what they're thinking, but if we didn't get an application, I wonder if that has something to do with it. Just the fact that they know that they're already stretched so thin.
I think it's definitely part of that. I will just also add that when the county got more involved in this process, we actually require that our subcontractors, which is the aid companies, we require that they pay the aides a minimum of $17 to $18 per hour. And that was something, we're the only county in the state that's doing that. And it's really best practice. Lots of people are looking at us for our efforts. I mean, it means our unit rates are higher, going back to the application process. We can't serve quite as many people, but people are getting served. And you're 100% right, Melissa, about that. Historically, we had plenty of money and people in theory on the service, but never getting an aide. When we went up and we are paying aides a higher rate, not just the agency, but the aide themselves, we have really seen a definite change in service.
Well, that's good to hear, because I can speak to that too. I see a difference with that, because I know that when I have people who have the money to spend, I know who to tell them to call, and they can get a consistent aide because they're going to pay 20 plus an hour and they get somebody. So that's great to hear.
Jen, with the new leadership at the Council on Aging, have you gotten any feeling that they might be interested in getting back into the in-home aid program?
I would hate to speak for Karen. I think that she's still learning the process. I've talked to her about that. You know, I don't want her to feel discouraged about applying if they thought they would want it back, but also that maybe feeling like they need a little bit more time as she's transitioning into that new role. And, you know, we have some other providers out there. Like, there's a lot of things happening. Some of our providers, some really exciting things. So there may be somebody that comes up, or there maybe no one. They may want to wait another year or two and then decide to submit at a later date.
I do think it's wise to go ahead and put out the RFP and see what happens, and then, like we did last year, look to the county if we don't have any applicants.
Folks, it is 4:28, and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. First off, I want to distinguish between our grant application and the county's request for proposals. So when we talk about what we're doing an application. So I think we all agree that we will prepare the application and send it out, and look to see if another in-home aid provider picks it up. And if none of them do, then the fallback is the county, and then the county will have to do an RFP. Is that
That's
okay?
correct.
Okay. So what I am going to propose is that I hate to put work on you, Jen and Billy, but maybe Jen, Billy, and I can set aside some time to really look at the language in the application. I think there's only a little bit of how do we talk about and how do we explain the including overhead costs in the unit. But also I would like to put out there to the committee if it would be a requirement for all new folks that are considering applying that they meet with us prior to finalizing their application. So that's just to put out there to kind of give them a chance to, okay, I have a lot of questions, and rather than just go through the application, to really highlight some of the issues that we've seen in the past and help them along.
Yeah, I think it would be good to require that they attend some sort of a session that, that could be recorded so that they could watch it later or whatever but yeah, I think that's a good idea. Most would want to, I would think.
Susan, I know we're at time, but I just kind of in relationship to that, wanted to quickly say that the county is doing a grants fair this year. I believe I announced that the last time. The date has been chosen. It's going to be Wednesday, January 10th. It's from 4 to 6 at 200 College Street. And that will be an opportunity for anybody who's interested in applying, not only for our funding, but any of the county funding, to come and to hear an update, like presentation, and then be able to walk around and talk to staff that manage those projects or manage those grant funds, answer any questions.
So what I thinking ahead to December's meeting, Billy, I hate to ask you, have you found anybody who wanted to be a speaker in December?
December, yes, I I have Blue Ridge Pride Generation Plus scheduled and Mayhack scheduled. Because we were gonna do 2 providers per meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if y'all want to do 2 providers. It seems like there's a lot of work to do with the application, so it's up to the committee. Both parties confirmed that they could speak on at the December 13th meeting.
You know, I hate to uninvite people, but I'm wondering if we might have to uninvite them. Does anybody, any of the other committee members want to weigh in on that?
Why do you want to do that? Because you think you have too much to cover in the December meeting to have time for that?
Yeah, I think we really have to go through the application because it has to be finalized, Greg. Yeah.
So are you saying uninvite both or just one?
I would think we've had a difficulty obtaining a commitment from Mayhack, so maybe inviting Mayhack and then rescheduling Blue Ridge Pride. Does that make sense, Billy?
That sounds good. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds good to me too.
Okay, so I will commit to getting together with Billy and Jen to go over the application and to redline items and get it out to you in plenty of time for review for approval next meeting, which is the 13th, if I remember correctly. Yes, the 13th. So, and don't forget, we still have that $40,000 to reallocate. So, yes, Cindy?
Yeah, just one quick, I'm still interested in talking about whether we have the ability to require part of Metro or Mountain Mobility's service to be directed towards the programs that are being funded through us, especially like adult daycare people, programs that are high risk that need an ongoing regular service rather than a one-off, whether we can reserve part of what we do for that. So maybe that's something we can defer to December as well.
Well, I think the committee would have to reverse its decision that said that Mountain Mobility did not have to fill out an application. So in order for them to be requested to have a specific subscription service, we would have to ask them to fill out another application.
Or could we just put that caveat on the funding that we would provide to them? Because we would still be needing to make some decision on how much we want to provide to them, and right? They don't, that they wouldn't have to apply, but they would be requested to reserve part of it, because we'd still have to make some decision if we're going to give them $500,000. Right?
That to me would be, I'd have to ask the county legal team, because it's the contract is between the county and Mountain Mobility.
And I would just add, yes, I think that would be a question that have to go to legal. Technically, these are already county funds, so county could allocate as much money to transportation as they wanted. I also could reach out to Matt Cable. I think that when we start having that conversation, some real clarity around what that could potentially do to impact other clients, I think would be necessary and needed, because it would significantly impact things like medical transportation appointments. It would impact things like grocery shopping. And earlier today in the provider meeting, which again, you all will get a PowerPoint presentation, Mountain Mobility has already expended 60% of their allocation and only been reimbursed for 25% of it thus far. They're going to overexpend by probably probably 200% of their allocation this year alone. And they are making that up with other county dollars. So if we start to require, there's going to be an impact that's going to be felt elsewhere. And I think Matt could maybe look at what that would be. And I don't know if that's something that the committee would want or not.
I think it's just a matter of looking at who's the most vulnerable that we're serving, because if it's replacing, if it's replacing serving people who aren't at risk of nursing home placement, et cetera, can we focus towards the most vulnerable? I guess that's what it comes down to. So that would be my comment. But yes, it may displace some others, but perhaps they're not as vulnerable as the people on the waiting list for daycare. I just think it's worth looking at. That's all.
Jen and I and Billy will put that at the top of our agenda when we get together for the application, and we can definitely have that as the first agenda item on next month's meeting. So I want to apologize for going over today, but I think we have a lot of things to do before the end of the year, and I appreciate everybody's thoughtful inputs. Any last comments, questions? If I hear none, then it is 4:37 and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Right.
Right.